Thanks again for joining me on 177 Nations of Tasmania podcast. One of the main themes of this podcast has been the reasons why people come to Tasmania, and sometimes major events far away have driven people so far away to find refuge on this island and try to start a new life. Nancy, who's from Chile, could be said to be such a case. In 1973, there was a military coup in Chile in which the democratically elected government was overthrown and replaced by the dictatorship of General Pinochet, one of the most notorious of numerous South American military regimes of that era. As a primary school student, this had a profound effect on Nancy and her family, and many other Chileans who would flee the country to escape political persecution in the form of imprisonment, torture, or worse. Many would find their place in Australia in the late 80s, and Tasmania also had a sizable number of Chileans settle here. And though many left for bigger cities, Chileans still make up the largest Spanish-speaking community in Tasmania. So please join me in listening to Nancy's experiences.
I grew up in Santiago, in a place called Pudahuel, and then it changed name. It was like a shanty town. I grew up there until I came here.
What sort of environment was it at that time?
Well, we were very poor, poor, but we were happy. We grew up with a lot of humanity around us, more than things, material things. But then until I was 11, things changed. Look, because of the political situation in Chile was become very bad. I guess
we're talking about the Pinochet era at the time. I mean, I guess for those people who don't know, I think it was 1973 there was the coup?
Yes, September, 11 of September. 11 of September, 1973 happened. And this was from a colorful, and then we enter a very dark and grey period growing up.
So you were just like at school at that time?
Yeah, I was 11 and I was in primary school, very close to my house.
So how did you, like as a child, how was the change noticeable?
For us, and I guess for everybody that lived during that period, it was a before and after. And before that, like my family was very political in many ways. And I remember before that we have a socialist government. And during that time, the president have a pledge that we were not going to be hungry. We were going to have education and health and everything. So, and we did. I remember the trucks would come into where I live with milk of different colors because we have to have milk. And that was a right that we have to have. And then after that, they killed the president and we lost all those things. And it was a period where from September during probably a whole year where we had to look for food, where my mom had to cook anything. So it was very, very hard for everybody. Yeah, and it was every day. It's like something that we have. And every child, I think the pledge was that every child had to have 1 liter of milk a day. And we did have it. It's something that we did have it. But it was a lot of discontent because the poor people were having what were our rights, I guess. So it was a lot of stuff. And we knew where, like even I didn't know I was a child, but I went to school on September 11 in the morning, and then I started to hear planes going up, and the teachers were looking, and then you start to hear bombs exploding very far away, but you could hear it.
Right.
And we hear the last speech that President Allende did. We're still using it in many ways. But I remember that's the last thing we hear. And I remember my mom crying and everybody and other people celebrating. It was like completely polarized country. Like it was too like the people from the rich people, that they were losing everything because we were getting other things. They were celebrating and we were like mourning. And then we have curfews where we couldn't go out at all. And we had people that we knew they were dead or disappeared. We had people missing that, thank God, we found them, like my brother-in-law and everything. I think, and it's quite emotional because in a way, when we talk about it, but at that time, you have to survive, you have to go through, and you have to, without complaining. If you go hungry, you go hungry. If you are scared, you go scared. It was something like that. So that's the way we grew up.
Yeah, and so I guess if people complained, they got in trouble.
Yeah, most of the people that are disappeared or killed during that time believe in the that nothing was going to happen to them because nothing like that happened in my country before. So if they were looking for them, they will go and present themselves to the police and say, I'm here, thinking that they were going to have a fair trial or something like that, but nothing happened. They disappeared and died. So after that, when we saw that, we were like, we couldn't complain. I remember my brother-in-law used to be the second in command of President Allende. He was the minister, I think, Home Affairs minister. So they were looking for him. My sister had a guard from the military guarding her and see where she go, what she do, and everything. And so our house got raided so many times.
Right.
So my family, I remember my mom knew, and she would send us to the neighbor, and we would hear my sisters crying, or people and voices, strange voice, and I could hear my neighbor, who was Christian, praying. So then we would go back home and see what happened, and my other brother-in-law, who had nothing to do with anything, was taken to the National Stadium, where they kill a lot of people. I don't know if you know about Victor Jara, which is a very international scene. He got killed there. So we didn't know if he was going to come alive, but thank God he did, after probably 2 months being there, but very damaged still. So we have multiple. I remember one Sunday, my mom was in the Catholic church, and they came, all these policemen came, and these people were in plain clothes, and they say, where is your mom? And they say, she's in church. And this man, and I remember he was wearing only one sock. Right. and they say, oh, you have to go and get your mom. So they were waiting for my mom. My mom is a widow, so she looked after us. My father died when I was 5. So, and I say, no, I can't go because I only got one sock. And then the policeman, this guy, say, oh, no, you look beautiful, just go. So I ran and got my mom. My mom was in church. And so when she was walking through the street, these people were calling her and say, come and hide here. Don't go there. So my mom say, I had nothing to fear. So I have done nothing wrong. So she went. And I think I don't remember, but my sister did talk about it. I remember they were joking that they were going to take one of my sisters with them. And we knew what would have happened to them. And I don't know how my mom, and she hit the table and said, nobody take anybody from Kia. And she swear for the first time. And they went, oh. And so they didn't take her.
Yeah.
They didn't take us. Thank God nothing like that happened to our family. And my brother-in-law, the one that is Hernan del Canto is his name, he was able to get out of the country and live in Germany for a long time.
Yeah. I guess a lot of Chileans escaped during that era.
Yeah.
And, some of them came to Australia, I guess.
I think Australia was probably before the people that were running away from a gender. And that's the division that happened sometimes. Look, we know when people, if you come in before the 73, it's because you were running away from this, and you come in after. It's like that's the distinction. And it's still happening here.
Yeah. And I mean, also Chile wouldn't be the only country where that similar situation has occurred as well.
No, because what happened in South America and Latin America is that it was one coup after another. It was like it happened before Chile. I think it happened in Chile, and before Chile, it happened in Uruguay, and after Chile, Argentina, and then we have Peru, Bolivia. So it was, and all the military government have now that we know, they talk among each other. So most of the people that run away to Argentina, when the military coup happened there, were killed there because they knew that they were by the government. So they knew everything.
Yeah.
It was quite dark time for the whole America.
How did you come to be in Tasmania, I guess is the question, but you can. I'm sure the story starts early.
That's another story. Living through all that social injustice that we have, and being a young person, you feel like you need to join something and you need to fight for justice. So I started in the church. Like the Catholic Church in Chile is completely different than and we, even though now it's not like it used to be on this time, they save many lives compared with, like if you compare with Argentina, where the Catholic Church didn't care and they were on the side of the dictatorship. This was different. We have archbishop, I think a priest, big priest, and he set a special place to protect the people that were persecuted. So I started to work with the Catholic Church, and then I got more radical, and then I got involved with a revolutionary movement there.
Okay.
And then I met my husband, and they decided, because he was a political leader. He was the face, and he was in everything, doing all the stuff, and I think in that time I was with my friend, and we were like undercover. We were doing a lot of probably Molotov and things like that, but they were no big stuff. Like they were between the Sangari wasn't big stuff because I couldn't do anything. But we were doing some damage, hopefully. And then I go together with my husband Gaston, and I decided to be going to support him in his stuff. So I stopped doing that stuff. One day, and I think this happened I think it was Mother's Day, 11th of May, 1984, they raid. I wasn't living with my husband at the time. I had my daughter, which is Trini, the one that came with me, but I wasn't living with my husband then. And something happened in where we live. It was a lot of unrest and a lot of looting and stuff like that. So the cops came and arrested about 25 people. And between those 25 people, they were our leaders, political leaders. So my husband came and he was arrested. They did have the same thing. That's because I was quite surprised that they have it in Australia. They have people incommunicado, like without anything for 5 days. And then after that, they will tell us where they were. But we knew during those 5 days that they were torturing them, possible kill them. We have to do something. And then after that, he spent about 3 years in jail as a political prisoner.
Okay.
When he came out, it was very bad because they were killing people. They were just taking people out of there, and we were very scared. So one day he was talking to one of my friends, and it was the other political prisoner after he came out, and they talked about Australia. And we knew one of our friends lived in Sydney. Mm-hmm. So my husband went to the embassy and they interviewed us. They were very quick. They were very nice. And we thought they interviewed us and they gave us a date. It was 15 days. You're living in this plane in 15 days, so we have to tell the family and everything. And when we were about to leave, because my husband was on parole at that time, he had to sign every Friday. They didn't allow him to come out. So we have to stay there, and we have to pay some money to the military big honcho there. It was like bravery. They got rich because a lot of people that came to Australia, they gave them all the permission to come and drop me off and then go back. And back, you have to pay money to them. And so...
Was that unofficial money?
Business for them. I think it was like under the table kind of thing. So we came that way. So he's supposed to go back to Chile. And so we came and we stayed and everything. So we wait until his case, where he spent nearly 2.5 years in jail. And accusation that it wasn't true, but it was still open. So he couldn't go back to Chile, otherwise they could put him in jail. And he said, no, I'm not going back. One day I spent in jail again, I died. So we never went back until it was clear. They say we closed it, nothing to see here. So we went back in 1998, I think, after I finished Centrelink.
Did you come to Tasmania directly, or were you somewhere else first?
We had the interview with I think it was the consul, the ambassador, I don't know, but it was quite, and we found it so nice. It was we have an interpreter. When he was talking in English, the interpreter was translating, and we were laughing, like we were so stupid. We never knew, like nobody ever talked to us in English and with an interpreter. And then he said, it was a lot of people there, like about 4 families. We thought we were going to Sydney, but he said, no, you're going to Tasmania.
And did you know much about Tasmania?
No, nothing. We were a little bit scared because we knew about the Tasmanian devil. Okay. And I thought it was a real devil. We never knew about but we were very lucky. I think that was the best. This is the best place to live. Yeah.
So what were your first impressions on arriving in Tasmania?
When we arrived, it was about 5 o'clock in May, and it was very dark. And I remember we were so tired. Like at that time it was about 28 hours, and we had to stop in different places. So, and it were a few Chilean waiting for us with the Chilean flag and singing. Yeah. So we cried, like we were crying, and then we were tired. And it was this lady, and she was, her name was Joanne and George. And they look after us, and they were like our parents in here. So we were like following them everywhere. So, and that was the impression about meeting them was so important for us because we knew we were safe. And I think that's so important for anybody that come in, to have that welcoming, that people looking after you for a while, to say, look, I got you, you're going to be fine. Yeah.
And so what were some of the challenges of settling in here in Tasmania at the beginning?
I think one of the things, and I guess every refugee have that feeling that you feel you betraying the cause and the country and everything. So you make yourself like thinking that you're only coming for one purpose. So our purpose was to get money, work hard, and then go back. And that was, so one of the challenges probably was not to be, it was like 10 years floating around. No setting any roots, no setting nothing, because you were thinking and going back.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge, no even worry about learning English, because you're thinking about it's not going to be important or something like that, not having a career or looking into education, nothing like that, because you're thinking that you're going to go back.
Yeah, right.
So that was probably one of the worst mistakes, because when you go back, it's either I change or they change, everything changed, and you miss this place and you think and you look back. Because Chile is a very elitist country. If you don't have a degree in the university, and it had to be the best university, you don't have opportunity to work. It's a lot of different compared with here.
Yeah.
Where you have the experience and you have the attitude and you have everything you could get there. So it was, and then you compare that, and when I come back with a purpose, and I will do my things, and I will do that, and I will buy a house, and I will get an education, I will work here hard because it's a good opportunity. And also, ignorant people is a big challenge as well because you need to educate them. Yeah. And it's so hard sometimes. I don't call them racist because I don't think they got that. But you get a lot of ignorant people around, especially working in a factory.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Was that sort of your first work experience here? My
first work experience was Cadbury's because it was getting money. And I thought it was going to be a lot of money. And when I got the paycheck, and I said, oh, I thought it was more. But anyway, yeah, it was my first experience. And it was with no English whatsoever because we left school. It was not, we have to get money. So we left school. And so I didn't have much English. And people were no patient, especially when you make mistakes and things like that. So, and you feel like you don't belong in anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the challenges.
And I guess when you come here and you don't have much English and the culture's totally different, you are pretty limited with the places you can work in. And
yeah, and I think the factory was the only one where because it was such repetitive work and then you learn it by looking and things like that. I didn't have that social skill because with other people because I was scared of them.
Yeah,
I didn't want them to talk to me, even like I smile, wouldn't be nice, but yeah, it was so hard, such a hard job. You had the older migrant women there working, the women from Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
You have those people that they will take you under your wing and under their wing until you learn more, and then they will get angry with you. Yeah. And I still have and I still see the ladies on the street, and I still say hello to them because they were they showing us that we could have done that.
Yeah.
But then with time, when you have more ambitions, you think about that's not going to be my life. I don't want to be until they were there for 30 years. Yeah. I don't want to work there for 30 years. No. But they were really nice. And they were one of the things that I noticed there, they were very, people were very racist against them as well, especially young women, Australian women. They want their job. So they were very mean to them. So we had to get together.
But what did you find people were most ignorant about? Was it just that they had some stereotypes about?
They do have. I remember we did have. I worked with one of my friends, Rosa. She speaks very with English, and then she was able to talk to them and everything. And sometimes they asked them if we were using shoes or where we live, or like they thought where we live in caves.
Right.
Yeah, that sort of thing they will talk about, and they will ask, and we will feel very offended. How dare you? We have shoes. Yeah. But, and also people, when you don't speak, I remember probably the experience that really marked me. It was one day when I was in the line and they were filling chocolate, and it was probably maybe 10 women doing this stuff. And this woman was talking very loudly and she was laughing and everybody was laughing with her. And I heard that she was saying about La Bamba, because at that time La Bamba was on fashion. And then these other women came to me and said, don't worry about what they say about you. And I went, what? And I feel so sad. And I think I was depressed because I cry. And I cry all the time. And I say, take the crying woman away. So they took me to another line where I was alone. So I was crying alone. Nobody said anything. Nobody came up to say anything. Nobody told her that I was wrong. Mm. And then I think I cry when I go home. I cry for the whole weekend. And then I have to go to work again. we went to do something. I put a complaint with my other Chilean friends that were there. We went and complained. And this woman, it was worse. Because every time I will go into a seat, like lunchtime or tea break, I will go and sit and somebody will take and they don't want to sit with me. It was like high school. So I remember one day, this woman tried to talk to me and I was shaking, and I said, the woman that was laughing about me on the line. So I said, no, I can't put up with this anymore. So I said, look, we need to talk. With my little English, I said, we need to talk. And she said, okay. And we talk. And she said, you stay there, I swear. And I said, what is swear? And she said, bad words. And I said, no, I didn't say that. So at the end, we became friends.
Yeah.
So it was about taking the barrier, and did she know that it was a misunderstanding? And she never apologized for what but I don't care. That at least I could work there, and people were nice to me after we talked. So it was fine. They knew I had the guts. Yeah.
That hits on a really important thing I believe in, and partly why I'm doing the podcast is it's really about, people have got to have conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Because that's how, by not doing that, that's how stereotypes become entrenched, and we think, oh, that person, they're like that. And I've heard about, not just Chileans, but people from other countries that we've experienced dictatorship and a bit of a police state. The people come to Australia, they're quite wary of dealing with authorities and even dealing with the police here because of
for what happened in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I remember when we arrived here, we have a lot of people traumatized, and they didn't want to do anything with the police. It's a lot of, it was family violence, and people will rather put up with that than contacting the police because they...
And I think that's not uncommon problem, not just Chilean community.
Probably Australian as well. It would be the same, yeah.
But I guess the difference is, Australians, people who've been brought up here are usually aware of the right authorities, and most of us trust the authorities unless we've had a bad experience. Now, I remember one of the things that softened for us, I remember one day we were at the adult migrant education, AMIS, that it was in Collins Street, and these two police women came in. And they were so beautiful that all the Chilean men and everybody fell in love with them and said, I want to be arrested. Because, and I think that the presence of women in the police force probably changed a little bit of the perspective as well. Okay.
I think that is important. I don't know now, but at that time, in my country, they didn't have police women yet. You
were talking earlier about the challenge of just having this temporary kind of thinking when you're here. How did that, when did that change, and what sort of prompted you to change that attitude?
Yeah, when we were at Centrelink, I think I wasn't very, I could fight and have my place there and be permanent and everything. But at that moment, I didn't care because my thinking was, I have to go back. Well, it was 10 years living here. So we went back in 1998. We went back to Chile after 10 years, and we got there. I think my husband, I was with my husband wanted to go back there for good, and he was trying to get everything to go back there, stay there. So I have my two children, Isabella and Nicholas, and my older daughter, she was 12. And everything changed. Everything that I think I changed as well. Yeah. Probably was the same, but I question a lot of things. Before that, I became my husband's wife in Chile. Here I was me. So, and my husband was trying to get a job and trying to get everything. English, I didn't have a degree or anything to get a job as well. So it was very, very hard. Thank God we did have Centrelink. during that time because they didn't carry that at the time. So, but it was, and I was alone because my husband was doing the political stuff, going everywhere. So after probably 3 months, we spent 6 months there. And I said, no, I have to go. And he wanted to stay. So I said, okay, just stay. And I left. So he had to give me permission to get the children out of the country, which it wasn't any problem. And I come back and I was homeless. I was living in Blackman Bay in a convent. The nuns, all the time the nuns come through to us in my family. They are like saints from somewhere and protect us. So I was living there. I was alone. And I was trying to, like, without any money, without any car, trying to do all the stuff on my own. And I was, for the first time, I was doing something on my own. Yeah. Without my husband, without my mom or my sister, so anybody. And I did it. So I rent a house. I was living with the children. And then suddenly my husband called probably 3 months after, say, I want to come back because I missed you. And I say, okay. So when he came back, I have power. Yeah. I have power to say, look, I want to do this. And so I wasn't that person that have to go after or do. So I feel really, really, that changed me. That really changed me. And I say, I have to do something here. So I found a job and I started to work and I had to do other things. And I wasn't asking for anything from my husband anymore. Or we were more complemented. Yeah. In that. Yeah, we were like more equal.
And how did your husband take that? Was he okay with it, or did it take him some time to adjust?
He came back because he was hoping, and my husband, he was hoping to make a life there, to go back and everything. And we left him. We left him there because I couldn't live in the condition that we were living. So, and he wanted to keep being there, and apparently he was quite depressed over there. So I think the family did an intervention and sent him back, I guess. So at that moment, it was pretty hard for him to adapt again and think that, look, this is going to be, I have to live here. And it took him a long time to go into that and get it. Yeah. Right? So I didn't know how he take it or not take it. It was my personal growth happening. So I wasn't worried about, but I knew that he would come through if we were all together. So that's the way. Now he's fine.
So you came back to Tasmania, and things kind of worked out. Sounded like they worked out a bit better. Yeah. Yeah. So what did you do when you came back here?
Well, we were living with my children were little. So my husband came back and I say it was a job there to work at. Before I used to work in any women's refuge without no English, but they got me anyway. They have faith on me. And I learned with them and everything. And then the job came again. So I told my husband that I would like to apply. And I say, I will apply to the job until you get a job. And when you get a job, I will get out and I will look after the children. So I applied and never got out. I think I worked there for a while. And then I left the job and I worked at the Hobart Women's Shelter, working with domestic violence for 10 years. And then I got this job for another 6 years. Yeah. I've been working here for 6 years. Yeah. Yep. And I study. The good thing about is that the job that I work gave me the opportunity to upskill. So I did. That helped me.
And perhaps you could just explain what you're doing here now, or where is here?
This is the best job ever. This is Housing Choices Tasmania. It's a social housing enterprise. The headquarters are in Melbourne. And my job is to be a housing officer. So I manage 113 houses in the Tasmanian. And I get to know many people. I love this job because working at the Hobart Women's Shelter and Kenny on the youth shelter, I used to see my clients only for 8 weeks, I think, and then I didn't see them anymore. Here, I see them grow, have families, become sometimes I see them when they die. So things like that, it's a long-term relationship, and you could see and you could intervene when something happened. So it's quite a rewarding, beautiful job. It's the good thing about this job is that, and I don't know, is the difference. What the other job is that I'm not working in crisis. So I get to have time and spend time with people, to see them develop and not rescuing them. I see how they're going with the children. So, and it's very multicultural because maybe half of our tenants are from different countries. So I feel like we belong together all in this. And the good thing is that we carry our Australian tenant as well. And it's like educating. I think one of the things that we need in these societies that not have this separation. So people will get to know each other and get to know, like, next to one of my tenants is Australian, and next we have an African person. And sometimes they say that they live in complexes. So sometimes they say, oh, somebody's working in the cherry picking, and they go and give a cherry to the neighbors. And it's something the Australian people are not used to it. But they get used to it because it's something nice.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to see that.